The brutal truth about exposure camps and college recruiting. Are they a scam? If you've been in college recruiting for even 1 second, you've likely received hundreds of invites to random showcases and camps. And the question is, are they worth it or are they just a money grab? And the answer is, it depends. And in this video, I'm going to help you decide when it's worth it and when it's a complete waste of your money and time. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Jack Kruger. I've been through the recruiting process twice. I now run D1 Scholarship. We help high school athletes and their families navigate college recruiting. We've worked with hundreds of athletes across 13 different sports and generated millions of dollars in scholarships. So I'm not just making this stuff up. Everything I share with you is proven and from the recruiting front lines. First, let's define an exposure camp. An exposure camp is an in-person recruiting event designed to put you on college coaches' radars. Here's how they're sold to you as the parent. They say something like, "Are you having a hard time getting your kid recruited? We have just the solution. Come to this event where college coaches will be in attendance, and if your kid plays well, you'll get recruited, and you'll live happily ever after." But there's something you need to know about these events, and that is college coaches often attend them to watch players they've already spoken to or know of, not necessarily to find new players. Now, will they find new players at these events? Of course. But if you're not on a coach's radar before the event, you're at a massive disadvantage. Here's a real life example. This is a message from one of our clients. She went to an ID clinic today from one of the schools we emailed with you. They talked to 3 kids. She was one of them. So there were dozens of players in attendance at this camp. But how many did they end up talking to? 3 of them. And what the other dozens of players at this event didn't know is that our girl had been talking to that coach for 2 months. They'd watched her video, they'd spoken on the phone, they knew her name. So we had a massive advantage. And everyone else at the event was at a massive disadvantage. But many of those parents were told, come to our event, you'll get exposure. And maybe this has happened to you. Your kid lights it up at a showcase. They're clearly the best one there. And when it's over and the coach pulls aside a couple players, your kid isn't one of them. And you wonder, how can that be? What are the coaches looking at? What are they looking for? But what you didn't know is that the coach had already been recruiting those few players for a month. You walked into a rigged game, and that sucks. But here's the cool thing. You can rig the game in your favor. So when you attend an event, coaches are watching your kid. So here's how you can make this happen. The first step is to start conversations with coaches before an event. And there are a few ways to do this, but we're going to talk about 2 of them right now. One is email. And this isn't revolutionary. Many players send emails. You might have even heard a college coach complain about getting emails. But don't let that fool you. It works. I got an update from a client this morning. Today is February 20th, 2025. And the message says, "Hi, Mackenzie and Connor." Mackenzie's my wife. Connor is one of my friends who works in the business. And the message says, "I hope that you are well. I wanted to thank you for your help." He has had 26 schools show interest since we started this campaign. A campaign is a batch of emails that goes out. This all came from email. The second is social media. This is typically either Twitter or X or Instagram. Now, which one you use depends on your sport, and it also depends on whether your kid is male or female. The point is, posting content and sending DMs on social media is a great way to start conversations with coaches. There are other things that you should do with social media as well, but those are the big 2. And when done right, email and social media will start conversations with coaches. So step 1 accomplished. Step 2 is where things really get tricky. Because not all invites to camps are equal. Some are clearly auto-generated, and these are an indication of phony interest. In other words, they are a complete waste of your time and your money. And you can tell these are auto-generated because they look like a letter. They talk about the history of the school and the program, the benefits of going to a camp, and stuff like that. And clearly, a college coach didn't sit down and write all of that out just for you. So they copy and pasted something in the hopes that you donate to their program, basically. But some of these event invites are more personal, and these are the ones that are worth looking into. Here's how you should think about it. The more meaningful the conversations are with coaches, the stronger you should consider the event invite. So things like frequent conversation, sharing feedback on videos, asking to hop on a phone call, texting with you, calling your coach. These are all positive indications that a coach is taking a real look at your kid. And the more of these that you have, the better your odds that the event is worth it. Now, this isn't a perfect system. There's no way to 100% correctly tell if you're wasting time and money or not, especially because it also depends on how your kid performs at the event. But it's better than nothing. And you can often make educated guesses that increase your odds. If you get a camp invite, your goal should be to strike up more meaningful conversation. And this might not happen immediately. In fact, it often takes many weeks or months, which is why a follow-up strategy is super important. But over time, the conversation will hopefully, if you do things right, become more meaningful. And you'll be more confident that the event is worth your time. So these are the questions you need to ask yourself before you attend an event. Am I in contact with a coach in attendance? Has there been frequent or semi-frequent communication? Is the communication meaningful? Are the channels of communication meaningful? For instance, text is more meaningful than an email. It's more personal communication, but that doesn't necessarily mean an email can't be meaningful. You should simply value a text more. Now, if the answers to these questions are yes, or even a soft yes, then you should at least consider attending the event. Now, keep in mind, this won't work 100% of the time. You won't always be able to start a conversation with a school before an event, but you should try, because it might just save you thousands of dollars. Now, when should you attend an event, even if you're not in communication with the coaches? If there's a school at the top of your list that you've tried to contact and you've heard crickets, you haven't heard anything from them, it might be worth attending the event just because it's your top school or one of your top schools. Now, is it a gamble? Absolutely, it's a gamble. But who knows? Maybe your kid plays well and you land your top school. The idea is that this is reasonable to do a few times, but not every time you want exposure. The other main time it might make sense to do this is when you've exhausted email and social media entirely and you still have no traction. But this is your last resort. Always try to start conversations first. It'll save you time, money, and sanity. Now, did you find this helpful? If so, and you want a once and for all recruiting solution so you're not scrambling or panicked 6 to 12 months from now, then you can click the link in the description of this video to learn more about how we can help, and I'll see you guys next time.